Welcome to the Scratch Golfer's Mindset Podcast. My name is Paul Salter, and I'm a triple-digit golfer on a quest to become a scratch golfer. I'm also a high-performance mindset coach and credentialed hypnotherapist with 15 years of experience helping high performers from all walks of life get unstuck and unlock their full potential. Join me each week as I not only detail my journey, but make mastering the mental game of golf simple, tangible, and relatable so that you can overcome the mental hazards keeping you stuck in the proverbial bunker of poor performance. Hey, fellow golfer, welcome back to another episode of the Scratch Golfer's Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Salter, the golf hypnotherapist, and I am thrilled to share the conversation I had with Michael Leonard on today's episode of the podcast. This man needs absolutely no introduction. He's the creator of Wicked Smart Golf, the author of Wicked Smart Golf, the author of his brand new book, Wicked Smart Golf 2, the blueprint to breaking 80 consistently, and of course, the host of the phenomenal podcast, you guessed it, named Wicked Smart Golf. He also happens to be a +2 handicap who plays in 50 or so tournament rounds each year and one hell of a mental golf coach. And today's conversation is going to be unlike any conversation you've heard from a guest on this show or a conversation you've heard Michael as a guest on any other show. Yes, we're going to talk about all things related to helping you get out of your own way and play better golf, but we're going to filter all of this through the lens of becoming the best version of you. To be frank, this has been my most enjoyable, favorite podcast conversation to date, and I'm excited to share it with you. And if you find value and enjoy the conversation between Michael and I, you're absolutely going to love hearing each of us speak at the Mental Game of Golf Summit going live on January 25th, 2025. You can learn more about that one-day virtual event and reserve your seat by grabbing a ticket, visiting the link in the show notes below. But without further ado, please help me in welcoming Michael to the show. Hey, Michael, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
Doing well, man. Appreciate you having me on. It was a lot of fun to have you on my show. So excited to be here.
Absolutely. And we are going to waste no time. What time did you wake up this morning?
I got up 4:15 this morning. I was gonna try and set the I had the alarm set at 5, but Subby, I call it subconscious, Subby woke me up at 4:15 with a little idea for the book. So yeah, definitely an early guy. There's one last edit I had to put in there before I hit submit.
I love that. Now, is 5 a.m. a typical wake up time for you?
It is. Yeah. It's usually right around there. I try and not set an alarm as much anymore, being able to create my own schedule and stuff. Obviously it kind of depends but I try and schedule it to where I just do like really creative stuff before noon. So that way I don't have as much like podcasts or coaching calls. I try and do that stuff in the afternoon where I can, kind of just, I know my prime time and that's before noon in terms of creativity. So I like to try and do that. And just feels like everywhere I read and do my own research on, sleep patterns and things like that of just kind of tracking my own stuff. Typically, if I can just wake up on my own, I tend to just be a little more productive.
Yeah, I love that. And the more that you and I converse, the more I figure out that we are eerily similar. We'll save that for a different day. So I'm curious, I always love to learn from high performers like yourself. Like, what are some of the routines? What does a day in the life look like? And me knowing what you do fairly well, I understand no day is quite the same. But walk us through, what's the first hour or so of your day typically look like?
Yeah, so it's funny that you asked that because I've been an entrepreneur now for about 7 years, and when I first quit, I had no idea like what I was doing, and so that was pre like personal development. Hadn't done the Tony Robbins, hadn't done any stuff, reading the success principles, all this stuff to kind of get into figuring out how the mind works and stuff. So I was always type A, like let's just hit the ground running. And then I swung too far, and then I would do these morning rituals for like 90 minutes. And then I'd feel like by the time I actually got started, I had wasted the day. And then I've kind of been back and forth depending on the season of my business and things. And so I am very quick to start working, but I give myself about 30 minutes. So I want to have at least 30 minutes. Like today, I did a neuropeak breathing exercise for about 10 minutes, did a little meditation after that, and then just kind of thought about my goals, went through some of my folders that I have on my phone, just kind of looking ahead for what the goals are for 2025. And then pretty much after that, I do start working. I really like what I do. So it's just like, I have my home office and stuff. So kind of once I give myself a little time to, get this stuff together and hopefully, stay away from panic and looking at emails, I try to do, like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and then kind of get right into it. But yeah, I like having a little bit of balance in that sense. But then at the same time, I really like knowing that I've done more by 8 a.m. than most people do all day.
Yeah, that's an indescribable feeling. I'm the same way. And really for me, I've learned over the years, of course, through millions of mistakes and trial and error, that the longer I delay either checking social media or my email, I just become infinitely more productive. And if I can make it till like 10, 11 a.m., that day is just a cakewalk after that.
Yeah, for me, it's like I have to be planned. Like if I hate being frantic in the morning, so I am just so anal about my schedule. Like I know exactly what I'm going to do each morning, and I usually get most of it done. I used to overschedule, and then I would feel like I was always behind, even though I was, again, doing so much. But, that entrepreneur mindset, and there's always stuff you can do, and you kind of have to just realize like it's okay if you don't finish everything. Maybe just stop putting so much on your to-do list, and then you have that feeling of it. But now I'm like, hey, I did my best. Sometimes you don't know how long stuff takes. Sometimes an article I'm writing will take longer, or I'm doing some sort of, creative stuff and, something else pops up. I'm going to, strike when the magic's hot there. So yeah, it's kind of funny how you have to figure out your own style, but I just wish everybody spent a couple minutes in the morning. There's just so much research, and you just start the day better. Like obviously, well, I'm sure you're the brain guy and you understand it as much as anybody, but I just feel like most people just instantly let life take them. And if you could just take 30 minutes to yourself, and obviously, people have kids and jobs and stuff, and everyone's schedule is different, but man, if you can just kind of take the hold of the day before the day gets you, it can help a lot.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that because I'm in the midst now. I've got a 3-week-old as the time of recording this.
I was going to say right before we hit our record on mine, you were about to have that. So I want to say congrats again, and I'm sure that's a big shift in your mornings.
It is, and it's been so interesting because like this week, it's Tuesday, we're recording. This is my first like official week back to work. It was nice to have those 3 weeks where I could get up, whatever. If I was up at 3 a.m. and I stayed up, it didn't matter. But now today, the little guy's been up an hour or so before my alarm, and it's like this is just life. It's not forever though, and I'm very cognizant of that. But it's also an opportunity, and specifically for those of you listening, like your priorities change dramatically when a kid enters the fold. So just that quality time of quietness and nothingness, and that's something I'm really trying to lean into and cherish and soak it up, because I know in the blink of an eye he'll be like 14 years old yelling at me.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Gotta. And like you said, I think that's a good perspective too. It's not forever, so it's like, I always tell people that, like, hey, if you're trying to get better at golf, like you're probably going to have to go through some times where you suck. You're probably going to have to put in a lot of work, and it's like, but it's not forever. Like once you develop those habits, develop that swing, it's like when you add a lot of muscle, then it sticks with you. Like you have that ability. It's not like you have to work out that hard every single day, but a lot of people just get so overwhelmed with the work that's up front. They're like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah, I love that analogy to muscle, because you're right. Like, we can go into the whole different conversation on the topic of muscle memory and whether or not it exists. But like on a cellular level, you can see and witness like all the muscle, the mitochondria and the nuclei, they are literally coming back into the fold really frequently. It's difficult to lose muscle. You have to do absolutely nothing. But when you start doing it again, the muscle comes back. And the same is true to golf. You take, for whatever reason, having a kid, I didn't get to swing the club nearly as much for a few weeks. But once you get into that intentional, deliberate practice, it comes back a hell of a lot quicker than you think.
Yeah, it's very true. And it's, everybody like wants to like think that if I do it every day, like I when I first got back into golf and was like really trying to go pro, and like I was like practicing every second of every day, and I really didn't see much like result. Like I initially did, but then like it kind of plateaued, and then I was like burned out and like dreading driving to the golf course. I'm like, wait, this isn't like the whole goal. And it's just funny, like you like you said, you have seasons. Sometimes you do need to put in the work. Other times you got to know when you got to slow down to speed up. And a lot of times we're just like always go. But it's like sometimes you got to just step back and be like, this isn't working. What can I learn from it? How can I adapt?
Love that. So I'm curious now in this season of your life, where and how does deliberate practice wherever you're practicing, at home, on the putting mat, on the course, on the range, how often do you build that into your weekly schedule?
Yeah, it kind of changes with the season of like when my golf tournaments are. So I play in 50 to 60 tournament days a year, which is, I don't know, 10, 15 tournaments. They're anywhere from 2 to 4 days. Some of them are even more than that if you keep going in like a match play event. But I do a lot of tournaments. And so most of the tournaments are from March to like September. There's October, pretty much everywhere is closed here in Arizona because the courses have overseed. So it's really sad. The weather is finally nice and the course is closed. And then we have snowbirds here for a few months after that. So they're like, we're not going to run out courses to you guys. Like we could just, charge someone triple. So we kind of just play when it's really hot, and that's a whole challenge in itself. But so I kind of cater my routines a little bit to the seasonality of it. And so like right now I'm in the off season. I do have a tournament coming up this weekend, which is just kind of a one-off. But I have been working, I haven't had a tournament for like 2-ish months, which is a long time for me. And so I've really been working on some swing changes, and that's been really a lot of block practice, just a lot of repetition. I've been working with a great coach who started Ripstick and Rip Golf. And so he's been helping me out, and I've been sending a lot of videos and stuff. So then when I get closer to like tournaments, like once I get closer to March, April, then I really start to dial back like as much technical work and really lean into creative practice, pre-shot routine, competitive practice, and just trying to play more golf and just trying to get out there and kind of get more familiar with my swing on the course versus just on the range. Cause it's easy to be like, I'm the best range player. And then all of a sudden, life happens when you're out on the course. So it does kind of change. But I think the biggest thing, like I just released a video on practice, and I just think that everybody needs to understand there's 5 different ways to do it, but then to always have fun with it and to not like go like I was a few years ago where I was like dreading it. And so it's like, if you dread it, you're probably not going to do it, right? Whether it's a certain type of cardio you don't like or a certain food you don't like if you're just not going to stick with it. So it's about always, keeping it fun and keeping it engaging. And I think kind of timing it around if you have a club championship coming up or if you're, trying to make a swing change, like there's just different ways to kind of make the most of it.
I love that. And I'm curious, do you know, whether it's Sunday night or Monday morning, whenever you're doing kind of your weekly review of what's ahead, do you know at this time on these select days I'm practicing?
I do. Yeah. So I pretty much cause I go to a golf simulator here that's a private place. And so you just book it by the hour. So that kind of helps when I do that. So I kind of know hey, today I actually filmed some content when I was there, but then I also was like, hey, I got to hit at least 100 balls, mostly wedges and driver. Cause I got my tournament coming up. And so those are kind of my 2 go-to clubs that are really needed. And then a lot of putting practice at nights. And I try and set a weekly goal of 300 putts from 3 to 6 feet, just to kind of keep the repetition up. You can't be too good at putting. I've never met anyone that's like, I'm the best putter ever. So yeah, I think you have to stick with it. I got really sloppy and stopped practicing as much last year or earlier this year when my business was really taking off, and good problem to have, but my golf game suffered from it, and I wasn't being accountable. So I'm really trying to be a lot more accountable on my own show to say, hey, I didn't hit my practice. I said I was going to do 300. I didn't do any of it this week. I just ended up playing twice or, whatever it is. Yeah. And so I try to be a lot better about that. And I do my best to map it out. Life happens. And I think it is, really finding ways to kind of almost multitask if you can. Everybody wants to do the 3-hour epic practice session, but we don't always have that time. So instead of hey, instead of 3 hours, let's do 30 minutes while you're watching your TV show, you're making some putts too. Little things like that. I think just staying consistent and not trying to do these epic hero sessions that can really wear you down and then burn you out.
Yeah, I really like that you brought that up. It really falls under the lens of less is more. And I'm learning this the hard way. I've got a 15-minute window here before X, Y, and Z or a diaper needs to be changed. Okay, I can go hit 10 quality putts and go through my routine. I can go hit 10 balls into the net in the backyard. And for me, to be honest, it's a difficult adjustment because I want to go have the 3-hour hero practices. I feel like God at the end going into range session because I put in the work. I've ironed out some of the kinks for the day, and I walk away feeling really high, but it's not realistic. And I hope for you listening out there, you can recognize through the theme of less is more, the deliberate intentional practice, those short spurts that are enjoyable and challenging really plant the seed for significant sustainable progress.
Yeah, 100%. It's just like the whole theme of my next book is just being consistent. Like anything I've achieved in life and golf and business, fitness, it's all just been from staying consistent. Like, you always see that graph of what everybody thinks success looks like. And then you see the swirly line, but it still goes up. That's what it is. But if you have consistency and you stick with it, you just got to keep knocking on that door. Eventually it's going to fall down, but a lot of people just don't stay consistent in anything. And, obviously that's a habit loop. I'm sure you talk a lot about just, how important habits are and stuff, but it's like, if you can just stay consistent and you start to build that belief up and you're like, this is who I am. I'm the guy that says what he's going to do and I do it. And even if it's a terrible practice, I still did it. Even if it's an okay workout, I still got there. And then you look back in 5 years and you're like, nice job staying consistent. It's amazing what can happen.
It's funny. A guy named Brett Contreras, he's in the fitness space. He's known as the glute guy. Fun fact, if you're in the fitness space. But he once said, if you average 5 workouts per week, you're going to have likely 1 epic workout, 1 workout where you feel like shit, and 3 mediocre workouts. And I think we can take something away from that when it comes to our practice sessions during the week. Every session on the range or with your coach, you're not going to feel like God, like you're the best of the best. Some are going to suck or be challenging, but it's in those moments, if you are willing to look deep and stay patient and consistent, you're probably going to find the most growth.
Yeah, 100%. Like that's so true. I had a fantastic workout yesterday. I didn't even have time to work out today. I know, tomorrow could be okay, could not be but yeah, I've actually used to work out 5, 6, 7 days a week. I used to go to F45 and do back-to-back classes because again, I thought more is more. Yeah. And then I was like, why am I spending so much time and I still don't like the way I look? So like the last few months, I've just started doing a different schedule, kind of working with someone and learning some new stuff. And I'm doing a lot less and seeing a lot better results. It's hilarious how it works. But yeah, I think type A sometimes is a gift and a curse.
Guilty. Why do we, all of us humans, why do we struggle with consistency? What have you learned or gleaned in your coaching and your personal life that makes consistency such a struggle? Because we know the payoff is indescribably valuable, yet why do we struggle with it?
I think that's a great question, first of all. And I think it's 2 things. I think one, it is that struggle and people do not like being uncomfortable. Your mind does not like to be uncomfortable, right? So I think that's the first thing. And then the second thing is that people don't see the big picture. Like they don't take time to be like, if I just stick with this, I'm going to get that raise or I'm going to, build that business. I'm going to get that body that I've always wanted. I'm going to lose the weight. But it's like, we're just such short-term thinkers and we're so ingrained to want it now. And, we've had like 7 packages delivered today from Amazon. I ordered them yesterday, so everybody has that mentality for everything. And that's why you see the Ozempics taken off and you see the get rich quick schemes. And it's like, none of that stuff works. But it's easier to do. And I've fallen into these traps too. Like I always like to be very clear. I've made every mistake you can make in golf, probably in business and life too. But it's just, we want these things. We want people to be like, wow, he is really fit. Wow, he is really good at golf. But the people that you see that are a few steps ahead of you and want what you or already have what you want, they just stuck with it and they did it. But it's hard to stay patient. And I had shiny object syndrome so bad when I started as an entrepreneur. I think at one time I had 7 quote unquote businesses. Only one of them made money. I don't even know if they were businesses, but I was like, I'm going to be an e-commerce guy. I'm going to sell courses. I'm going to run the podcast. I'm going to do coaching. I'm going to flea market flip. I love being an entrepreneur, but I'm like, what are you doing? And so naturally you just burn yourself out and then you're like, this sucks. This isn't even worth it. So I don't know if there's any insights to golf in there, but I just feel like you have to see it. You have to believe it can happen and then just, build that plan and then stick with it. So it's like, the whole goal setting thing. Goals are great. Like I love it, but people usually only set goals in January. That's a failure for one. You can start a new habit tomorrow if you want. You can start it right now, right? So it's like the goal is one thing, but then how do we achieve the goal? And that's a guesswork. A lot of people I used to do this too. I used to overthink everything. You're like, oh, well, how can I get this podcast to grow? How can I, get better at golf? And, I'd plan out all these things and just exhaust myself and then never just dive right in. When in reality, you just got to go mess up. Everything good happens from just failing, just keep failing. But again, most people just have an ego. I just don't care if I fail anymore. I don't know, maybe I just have kind of entrepreneurship's hardened me, but I'm like, we're all going to die one day. It really doesn't matter. I'd rather at least go out swinging and be like, man, I stuck with it. And sometimes you'll just have, and eventually you have these little wins and you're like, man, that's cool. And someone will be like, wow, your game really has improved. Wow, your business is taking off. And you're like, yeah, you get that little bit of outside validation too, because a lot of times, whether you're practicing golf, whether you're trying to be, better at fitness or your business, it's just you. And so it's like, that's where your own stuff really comes in. And so you can be your own best friend or your own worst enemy. So that's obviously where me and you try to help and give people the tools to improve that mindset, because at 4:15 this morning, nobody was cheering me on. It was just me. Right. So, but I loved it. I'm like, this is fantastic. So it's all about that mindset.
Everybody listening, go rewind those last 5 minutes. Pure gold in his insight there. And something you stood out I really love is you were talking about the goal planning process, and you used the word exhausted. And I find this all the time, is the act of actually planning and setting goals. It's exhilarating. It's fun. We get high on dopamine, but you're right. It's so fucking exhausting. After we have the picture perfect plan, we have no energy left to actually take action. And that's the missing piece. It's, there's no shortage of information out there, and there's a blueprint to achieve any goal you can ever create in your mind, because someone has done it and it's on the internet. But it's the action piece that matters most. Go take the action, fearless, unafraid to fail.
100%, man. I mean, it's funny. My subtitle of my new book is The Blueprint to Breaking 80 Consistently, because I figured it out, and I'm like, if I was a terrible golfer for so long, and so I'm like, if I can do it, you can too. But it's all about effort. I mean, people, you might put in too much effort sometimes and hit burnout or have to slow down, like we said, but yeah, I'd rather get there than just being like lazy and be like, well, I wish, because my biggest fear is just being, on my deathbed one day and be like, I can't believe I didn't even try. I could be fine with, hey, you know what? You pumped out 10,000 episodes, but you never got Tiger on the show. Okay, I can live with that. I gave it my best, right? But if I could just be like, I can't believe you had those skills, you had the time, you had the work ethic, and you didn't do it. I don't know. I don't know what happens after you die, but man, that to me feels like it would linger in eternity. So I would much rather go out swinging and try my best. And if it works, great. And I think that, that's a big thing in my theme in the book too, is set massive goals. And even if you fail, you're farther ahead. Like the old Les Brown quote, like shoot for the moon. And if you fail or you fall, you'll land in the stars. That's why I want everyone to just set big goals. Like you shouldn't reach them all either. If you did, they're too attainable, right? So I get about half my goals each year, but it doesn't stop me from setting them the next year.
Love that. So we've taken, if you've been paying close attention, and you'll see me connect the dots, we've taken a long winding road to get to one of the underlying themes I wanted to discuss with you, was the topic of identity. And you've already kind of heard us allude to the habits, the thought processes, the beliefs. And I'm curious to hear from you, Michael, like what stands out about the identity of a scratch golfer compared to the identity of a 20 handicap golfer, for example? Like, what are those key defining characteristics that comprise the identity of a scratch golfer?
I think the first thing is just having the growth mindset. I mean, if you haven't read the book Mindset by Carol Dweck, I mean, that book in 2017 still sticks with me. And I wrote about it in my next book too, because if you don't think you can improve, you won't. If you have that fixed mindset, then you see someone better than you and you're like, well, they're just born that way, or they're lucky. You just have a terrible attitude. You don't even set yourself up to win. But if you have a growth mindset, you're like, they did it, so I can do it. So that's the whole first section of my book, is getting you to believe in you. Because if you don't believe, or you'll never even attempt it. And so I think that that's the first thing to me, is have that growth mindset. And then the second thing is get clear about who you want to be. So my goal right now is to be a +5 handicap. And that's a big goal. And there isn't really a blueprint for that one. I haven't seen, there's not like Arco stats for here's what a +5 does. So I'm kind of shooting in the dark here. And, it's a big goal. Like it's already the top, 0.00% of amateur golfers. So it's a big goal. But again, I'd rather fail and be a +3 than, where I'm at +1.5 or whatever right now. So it's like, I am trying to get clear about that though. I'm like, well, what would a +5 do? And so that's what I want you to think. Hey, if you want to be a scratch golfer, what's a scratch golfer do? And it does help if you can get around those people that are already doing it, right? So like I try and play with really good golfers and see. And I mean, when I first got back into tournament golf, I would go and play in all these mini tour events as an amateur and just get my ass handed to me. And it was awesome. I loved it. And I would play matches versus pros and I would lose. And I did not have much money at the time, so it definitely hurt. But I was like, man, okay, they're not that much different here. Oh, they're a lot better in this area though too. So you kind of start to connect the dots. Problem is, though, most people love to just play with the same 5 guys, 6 guys. They'll play with this threesome or this foursome, and they have their games. And that's fine. But if you really do want to get better, you're probably going to have to break out of that and maybe try a tournament where you're going to meet some new guys, or, sign up for a skins game or something like that. And the whole, the 5 people you spend time with, that absolutely can shape you. So if you hang out with guys that are shooting, 100, you're probably not going to be playing your A game all the time. But if you're out there and you're playing with guys and you're just, I was playing on Sunday with 4 guys and we're all plus handicaps and we're all just kind of joking. Like, it's just nice to play sometimes with guys that are just like, you see it go down the fairway, you see it go on the green, you see putts, you're just like, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do. And so it kind of gets you in that zone. So I think that you have to have the growth mindset to believe you can even do it. Then that will give you the ability to put in the effort to potentially see the results. And then you just have to start getting clear about it and say, what does this guy do? What does this girl do? How could I do this? And, surrounding yourself with the right people is good too, but putting the right stuff in your mind. I mean, I am so cognizant of the things I read and the stuff I listen to. I mean, I've brainwashed myself into believing I'm going to do all this stuff. Again, I probably won't do everything, but man, it's a lot better to live that way than to be negative and pessimistic like so many people are. And that's just, that's a tough way to go through life to me.
Yeah. I love that. The question you posed too, I'm going to put it in my own verbiage because it's so, again, eerily similar to something I come back to all the time. Who do you need to become to achieve your goal? And that can be the gateway into gaining clarity on, how does a scratch golfer talk to himself, talk about himself? What does he believe he's worthy, deserving, and capable of? What are his habits? How would his peers describe him? When you can paint that picture with the utmost vivid clarity, it becomes a hell of a lot easier to align effective action steps to become that individual. So well said.
Yeah, you kind of just have like a checkpoint during the round. So let's say you just say negative things to yourself after you putt. Like, I'm a terrible putter. I suck at putting. I mean, everybody said that, but some people really say it. And then their subconscious is like, wow, we really do suck because you keep telling me all the time.
Yeah.
And you think, would a scratch golfer say that? Probably not. There are some guys that are so good and they can talk so much shit to themselves still. I've unfortunately seen it. But again, I don't think they're going to play that long, and I don't think they're enjoying it either. I mean, the whole point of golf is to have some fun out there. But I mean, I've played with guys that are miserable. They're still great, but don't get me wrong. There's talent is a big part of it, but you can still outwork talent as well. And if you're just saying the right stuff, and you could say, hey, that's not what probably a scratch golfer, that's not what the scratch golfer I want to be would say to myself. Yeah, but I think that's where I do love all the data, because the data helps, because then you can be like, one of the reasons I struggled mentally so long is because I had these unrealistic expectations. I'd hit it in the fairway or hit it in the rough. And I can't believe I did that. And I'd be like, well, if I went on Google Earth, it's a 35-yard fairway. Pros only hit 58%. Why do you think you're never going to miss one? But it's we have these unrealistic expectations. So when you have the stats and you're like, okay, yeah, I missed that fairway, but I did hit 50% today. Well, scratch golfers hit 51%. Pros hit 58. Wow. I'm really right there, so it lets you be able to swing your swing. But if you're over it and you're like, I got to hit this fairway, I got to hit this green, I got to make this putt, you're just taking the magic out of it, and you're just going way too analytical. And so I think that the number side of it is very helpful. We didn't have that 10 years ago. So we have it with the PGA Tour, which is nice with ShotLink, but now you have Arcos and you have ShotScope and Decade and all these other stuff. And you can start to see how you rank up versus, whatever handicap you are and want to be. And that's nice. Half my coaching students have some sort of, program, probably more than that actually, have stuff, and they'll send me, they're like, hey, I'm a 7 right now, I want to get to scratch. And we'll be like, all right, well, your driving needs to improve, or your short game. And so it's nice to have that data too, because then not only mentally can you improve, but then you can physically spend that time practicing the right stuff.
Bingo. So I have a quote that's literally tattooed on my wrist, and it says, you can't change unless you change. You have a quote, I don't know if you live by it, but I've heard it many, many times: do different to get different results. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, if I had to have a tattoo, I probably would get something like that, or like a Batman symbol, big Batman guy. But yeah, cool. I think I say it straight up in the next book, because I'm so tired of people just being like, I want to do X, Y, Z, but then they do this same shit. And then they're like, then they whine about it. I'm just not, my girlfriend gives me some grief. I'm not the most compassionate because I just want people, because I don't think I'm that talented at anything. I think I've just worked hard to get it. And I know that if I can do it, you can too. And so the whole do different, get different is just like, if you watch golfers, like on the driving range, you watch what most guys do. I mean, it's just the same shit. And it's getting there, no warm up. It's no plan, no intention. I mean, going straight to irons and woods. Then they get mad. I used to get mad. And then of course you get mad on the course because you're already programming yourself. There's no, there's no like, I did good or I did bad. There's just no structure. And then you go to the golf course and you're just all over the place. And you're like, well, why am I not, I went and practiced. It's like you hit balls, but did you actually have a plan to get better? And so do different, get different is warming up. It's stretching. It's not looking like other people out there. It's going for, and starting and say, hey, I'm going to go out there. I have 60 minutes today. Perfect. Turn your phone off or put it on, throw some binaural beats on, do something to focus, stop checking your phone 15 times, have that hour and just say, hey, 20 minutes, I'm going to do this. 20 minutes, I'm going to do this. Take a 5-minute break. I'm going to end it with 15 minutes here. So you're doing different, you're maybe doing competitive practice or you're doing some pre-shot routine practice. People never do that stuff. And then again, they wonder why they're so much better on the range than the golf course. So do different, do morning rituals, learn how to breathe, do self-hypnosis, learn how to meditate. Like all these things are so different than what most people do. But one of the problems I feel like is everybody wants to be accepted. And I really fell into that too. I was a people pleaser, and now it's just like, I'm going to do what I think is best for me and my business and my goals. And if you don't like it or you think I'm weird, I'm okay with it. I think that everybody needs to get into that. I don't give a fuck about what you think as soon as you can. It's a true gift if you can give yourself. Most people never do that. I know adults that are 50 or 60 and they're still trying to impress people and please people. Yeah. But they're still not happy with themselves and their goals or lack thereof. And so do different, get different. That is literally from the mental, the practice. Everybody's like, hey, you should chip this. I'm going to putt it from the fringe. That's statistically the best play. Hey, you should hit driver here. No, it's not. Look at the course management principles. So it's going against when everybody's going left, you choose to go right. It's lonely sometimes though. It's you're an entrepreneur, you know what it's like. And I mean, people judge you and they kind of root you on until you start doing good. And they're like, oh, I don't really like that he's getting ahead of me here. So it's like a lonely battle sometimes. But if you are working on all the mindset stuff that you and I talk about, you start to be like, take it as a badge of honor. And like, you realize, man, if I stick with it, if I stay consistent, then all of a sudden people are gonna be like, man, how'd you do that? That's so cool. Like, nice job publishing that book. That's so cool. You got to like, you're playing tournaments now and you're like pretty good. Like, how'd you do that? I did different.
Yeah, dude, so well said. Another one for everybody listening, go rewind the last 5 minutes. And really what stands out to me, and I think it's important to really reiterate, is we are all biologically wired to want to belong, to feel accepted and connected. We're fearful of judgment, abandonment, and rejection. So if you're thinking about doing something and it scares you, it makes you uncomfortable, allow that fear to be your northern star, your guide into what you need to be doing to do different. And on that note, you and I both know so well, the vast majority of the population of golfers are not taking the mental game seriously. And that's the reason year after year, their handicap is stagnant, or in fact, it gets even worse and they continue to find a myriad of excuses. So I'd love to hear from you. Like, is there a way you define mental mistakes, and what are some of the most common ones you see that are low-hanging fruit that can be avoided or conquered?
Yeah, I mean, the mental game, to me, there's just one goal, and that's just to stay out of stress. And that's the mental game's so big of a concept. I mean, I got that from Dr. Rick Sessinghaus was on my show, Colin Morikawa's mental coach. And I believe he talked about it. I've had a few coaches talk about it too, but when you really think about it, the mental game isn't just to just say nice things to yourself, that probably will help. But you have to realize from a playing perspective, most people are so much better on the range because there's no stress. You don't have that water, that you have to hit over. You don't have to make that 3-footer all of a sudden to win $5 off your friend. You have no stress. And when you have no stress, that's when you're able to literally swing the club better. You don't have adrenaline. You don't have cortisol. You don't have any of these things that are actually going against your motor patterns to swing the swing that you've trained. But then that's where we go from, hey, driving range practice, and then all of a sudden we go to the course, and now we have all that stuff. So it's very, very different. So the whole goal of the mental game is stress is coming. It's going to happen. No matter how good you get, you're going to hit bad shots. Your bad shots are going to probably get a little bit better at each skill level. You know, you're as a scratch golfer, your bad shots probably aren't going to have the shot dispersion of a 20 handicap, but they're still going to surprise you. And I remember having Dr. Izzy Justice on my show, who wrote the book Jira Golf, and he's talking about how all these bad shots are actually micro traumas to your brain. They're small micro traumas. Some of them are huge. So like if you top a first tee shot, speaking from experience, in front of everybody, that is a traumatic, because it's like you had an idea of what it was, and not only did it not go that way, it was like a 9 out of 10. So now you're freaking out. And if you were tracking your brainwaves using a focus band or something like that, you would see the spikes on there, and your mind is like, oh man, we are gonna die. Like there's like a fire coming. There's a saber tooth. Like we gotta go. So when you have that, you're never going to be able to play your best golf. So I just try to give people as many tools as they can to calm down, because if you're playing in that, you know, blanket of rage and you have that like Hulk-like energy, speaking from experience, once again, it feels like you're out of control. It feels like the other guy's driving, and man, it's just like, finally you like wake up from it and you're like, wow. And you're like exhausted. And then you just like kind of give up. And then that's usually when you play your best golf, because you've given up. You stop trying to control it. So I think everybody probably can relate to those like epic meltdowns, or like you get off to like a horrible start, or you just, you know, sometimes golf is just going to be hard. You wake up sore, you know, the course doesn't set up well for you, whatever it is. Like there's always going to be there. So you got to just figure out ways to calm down. And I think the first part of all that is having the right expectations. Because if you, like I said, if you always think you're supposed to hit every fairway, hit every green, make every putt, you're never going to do that. So you're always going to be upset with yourself. And again, when you're upset, you're not going to be able to stay out of stress. And the whole goal is to stay out of stress so that you can get in the zone. That's the whole thing. Everybody talks about the zone, the flow state, whatever you want to call it. Everybody's been there, even if it's for a hole, maybe it's been 5 holes, maybe it's been a whole day and you played one of your best rounds ever. That is so fun. But that only happens if you know how to claw out of wherever you might be, because all of a sudden you might, you know, start off with a par, and then all of a sudden you make a double. You're like, I'm feeling good. And then you pipe one out of bounds on 2. And now you're like, oh, God. So you have to like figure out how to get back. It's just, golf is so hard, and we forget how hard it is sometimes. But I think having the right expectations, and then having different tools in your arsenal to learn how to get back to it as fast as you can. Because if you know, everybody's going to hit those bad shots, but you can't let them keep impacting them. You know, like the biggest thing I hear, I survey my audience all the time, blow up holes. I probably just write a book on blow up holes, how to avoid them. So that's like a big emphasis, because blow up holes just sabotage the round, and then they lead to more blow up holes. You know, that's when you see like bogey, double, you know, because people are like mentally shut down out there. And so you have to be very careful about it. And so everybody's going to be different. There's no one way to do anything. And it's really just about testing, figuring out what works. And I always joke, you have to learn it all, but then you have to apply it all. Like I share some stories in my book. I'm a mental golf coach, you know, pretty good golfer, played in hundreds of tournaments, but I'll go back to old habits. I'll go back to doing stuff that I know is not helping me. So you have to remember, when shit hits the fan, and it's gonna, what can I do? And that's, again, where doing different to get different will help you out. But man, it's a battle out there. There's no doubt. I'm not going to say it's easy, but it is something that everyone can figure out.
You know, it's interesting, and I love what you shared. I read something. Do not quote me on this. Don't hold me to the exact stat. But there is a strong correlation between the amount of time you spend in flow and longevity. And not just flow on the course, but you being such a creative and a talented writer, those flow states are essential to your ability to produce work and produce high quality work quickly. So I always find that interesting, because I'm someone very ingrained in my morning routine. Don't talk to me, bother me. I need these couple of hours to get my creative work done here. But the same thing on the golf course. Of course, it's rewarding on the golf course, but it also might be rewarding for many extra years on your life. Something to think about.
That's interesting. I believe that. Yeah, because I mean, you're not stressed.
Exactly.
So, the problem is like most of us are just so stressed all the time. And like, I didn't realize like how much breathing impacts that, like I had a guy that, specializes in this. this, and he was saying that most of us are taking like 2 to 3 times as many breaths per minute as we should, which signals stress. But when you learn to diaphragmatic breathe and you learn to slow it down, not only are you going to help your golf game, you're going to help your life too. I just like never even realized that because again, school doesn't teach us anything. And it's one of those things where I was like, wow, like that makes a ton of sense. I mean, what's the first thing anyone says when you're stressed? Take a breath. But again, most people don't even know how to breathe the right way. And then you take one good one. Okay. That's why people like smoking cigarettes too. Yeah, the nicotine's nice, but it's also you're breathing. And so it's like one of those things where you realize like, oh, wow, there's a lot of power in breath if you know how to use it.
Do you tape your mouth at night?
I have not taped my mouth at night. Nope. I have, I think you had mentioned it right before we hit end on our last show. So I think as soon as we got off, I was on Instagram and saw an ad for mouth tape, but I have not tried it.
Dude, the nasal breathing at night's a game changer.
Okay.
Put it out there again.
All right. Does it help snoring? Cause I'm sleeping next to somebody that has some loud snoring patterns.
Yeah, that one I can't vouch for.
I think we got to get a more expensive mattress that like adjusts. I don't know if you've seen those. That's what I think we need.
I went all in. 2020 was the year of sleep. I tried and spent a countless amount of thousands of dollars on all things sleep and the mattress. I've got the chili pad to control the temperature. I got everything.
Yep. Yeah.
All worth it.
But that's so key even for golf. Like if you sleep terrible, you're not going to be able to make as good of decisions. You're going to lose your temper faster. I mean, again, you're a new parent, so you know this more than I do. I don't have kids, but even if I have like a terrible night of sleep and like just things agitate you and like, you know, life is so much harder. So a lot of stuff you can do off the course, but yeah, having the right sleep is not only going to help your golf course performance, your life performance, probably going to help you get in that flow state a lot more too.
And I think that's the message people listening really need to hear is yes, you can spend countless hours pouring into all aspects of the technical game of golf. But like at the end of the day, you can't really separate the golfer from the human being that you are. Compartmentalization is a conversation for a different day, but like you need to care for yourself emotionally, physically, spiritually, mentally, because everything you do the other, whether it's 23 or 20 hours of the day, is going to influence how you show up for that range session or that round of golf.
Yeah, 100%. I had a guest talk about that too. Like you can't just be a great mental game off the course and, you know, terrible on or vice versa. Like it's just that one brain you have. So you have to learn how to use it for both.
Absolutely. Now you mentioned blow up holes quite a bit, and I wanted to kind of hear from you. What have you found most effective, or how do you coach your coaching students through bouncing back from a hole? Whether it's self-inflicted or, you know, the golf ball just falls where it may. How do we bounce back quicker and get back on track?
First thing is to slow down. Like everything you do, slow down. Because when you're stressed, you start walking faster, you're breathing faster. What do we got here? Slow down. Exactly. I think
my daily reminder.
That's so funny. You got to have it though. I mean, because if you're like, imagine missing like a 3 foot, like you just stuffed a chip in there on a par 5. You have like a 3.5 footer, pretty much a gimme, you think, but you miss it or you catch an edge. You're super mad. And then you're, you know, on that green and you have like a short distance to that tee box. Now, all of a sudden, it's really easy to let that stress affect that next shot because you just don't have much time. And so you have to be very careful about showing your mind like, we're okay. Nothing's happening here. Let's just, you know, calm down a little bit. So having some sort of post-shot ritual, taking some breaths, you know, walking slow, talking slow, eating slow. If you're drinking water, slow, like just slow down, let our mind know we're all good. And then stick with the plan that you already had, because chances are you already had a tee shot in mind and you knew you were going to hit, you know, hybrid, or you knew you were going to hit driver. Don't go against it because you have emotion all of a sudden and then you just compound the mistake. Discipline's a huge thing in golf. I mean, if you don't have it, it's just, you know, a round can collapse really fast. So that's one thing. And then the routine, you know, the routine piece is so key because it is a reset. So the pre-shot ritual, having some sort of process, gives you that chance to be like, okay, it's over. What's next? You know, what's ahead? Where's my target? You know, start asking better questions. Hey, what did I do earlier today? You know, what's a good shot I can lean on? You know, I always say like, you know, use the shot you've hit during that round. So if you're on 7 now and you just missed that putt on 6, but on 2, you roped drive. On 7, when you're going through that, be like, I did this already. Number 2 today, I hit that same shot. So you're just like, giving your mind direction. The routine thing is beneficial for, I mean, countless reasons, but I always think it's beneficial because it gives your mind something to think about other than the results, other than the leaderboard if you're in a tournament, other than, oh my God, I did just miss that putt. So it's like gives your mind something to focus on and gives you something to tangibly think about. If I do X, then I get Y. You know, you're kind of going through that step-by-step process that you've trained in practice. Hopefully it's not going to work if you never do it, but then you start to have it and you set yourself up. It doesn't mean you're never going to hit bad shots again, but the whole goal of routines and the mental game and course management is just to set you up as much as you can to hit a good shot. If it goes great, perfect. Chances are it's going to be a lot of mediocre shots. That's a big part of golf. You're not going to hit a ton of great shots. It's just a lot of good misses, trying to minimize those really bad ones and just not letting the emotions get in the way. So the one shot at a time mentality it's cliche for sure, but it really is key. And, you just start to read about stories of, even PGA Tour guys that are about to win a tournament, about to win a major, and they start thinking about the results. And then all of a sudden they're not present and then they collapse. And I couldn't imagine the type of regrets certain players have from, the 18th hole, just going against everything you worked so hard for the first 71 holes, just from a mental slip up. So that's where the mental side is. It's key, and you're still going to fail. And it doesn't matter how good you are, you're still going to, but are you learning from it? I always challenge people to learn from every round. Like everybody loves to just, have 3 beers after a bad round. Like, I'm forgetting about it. Like, yeah, sometimes you got to do that. But like at the same time, like there's probably were you really composed on that tee shot? Did you actually pick a target? Did you go through your routine, or were they just lazy practice strokes and you were still thinking about that last hole? So you have to be honest with yourself. Like there's a good self-assessment you need to be doing after every round. But then the good rounds, study those too. Those are don't take them for granted. Everybody's like, oh, that's just who I am. Like, well, yeah, you want to say stuff like that during the round, but there's a blueprint for it. So write it down, figure out what you do well when you are playing well. Is it conversing with others? Is it taking an extra breath before you putt? Is it, you getting there a little early to spend time on the putting green? Like there's a blueprint for it, but you got to make sure to actually spend time doing it. Most people just go from one round to the next and they just keep getting the same results and wonder what's happening.
So well said. And I think the best of the best, one of the many reasons, of course, they're so good is they find something to learn and take away from the poor rounds and the great rounds. They never stop learning. And I'm curious, do you have a framework or an approach for, I call it the after round reflection. You might have a different name. Like, what is your approach to digest and extract what you need to learn from each round?
Yeah, so I'll just share exactly what I do. So after every tournament round, pretty much every round, but tournaments specifically, just since I play in a lot of them, and those are the highest stakes. Those are when you can really learn the most. And so for me, I do like a quick brain dump. So like even before I drive home, just usually sitting in my car, just be like, what was I thinking about? Like even during the round, I might jot something down on my pin sheet or something, or write a note. Just like, man, I'm really thinking about getting my left shoulder square at setup or something like that. Like little things I will note because they fleet, and then all of a sudden you're like, God, what was I thinking that tournament? I was hitting it so good. So like, I just say brain dump a lot. And so the first thing I do is just like, again, anything that specifically, was my body feeling good? What was my process like? And then I go into at least 3 good shots I hit. Usually don't have to worry about that. Usually I can find 5 or 6, if when you start to identify those, then you're like, okay, like, hey, I can find more and more, because even your worst rounds, you're still going to hit good shots. Maybe you still chip in, maybe you still make a bomb for, a really good birdie or something like that. So you got to do that because your mind loves to remember all the bad shots. So you have to try to offset that as much as you can. And then I like doing that because I play a lot of the same courses in Arizona since I've lived here so long. So like the next tournament I go to this course and I could be like, wow, 17. Remember when I made that birdie on that hole? And like I can kind of look back on it. So I geek out and I have this like organized by course and by day. Like it's a whole process. But so I do at least 3 good shots. And then, what's at least one good thing I can learn from it? Like you're never going to play perfect golf. So it's like, what's one thing? Well, my routine before, or my warm up just was terrible. I was too chatty to everybody else. I wasn't really focused, or, I let slow play get the best of me. How can I be better about slow play? And, whatever it is, like everybody's going to be different, but I get at least 3 good things and then at least one thing I can learn from it. And remembering those good shots is awesome, man. It just creates that mental highlight reel that you can bounce back and go through, and having those swing thoughts and the mental or the setup thoughts, whatever it is, like, man, having that's nice, because you're going to go through a slump no matter how good you are, speaking from experience. And it's nice to be like, okay, I've been good before. I've been the level I want. What did I do? And so again, it just kind of goes back to documenting your journey. I think that's really key.
I love that. And I'm the same way. As soon as I get in my car, I voice note. I use the word brain dump as well. I just kind of emotionally vomit, get it out there. If there's any thoughts tops of mind, and then
because when you get home, nobody's going to care about it either. So, you got stuff to do, you got a job, you got family, like nobody's going to care about it. Maybe call like a golf buddy. You need like a golf buddy hotline almost, but yeah, just get that out for sure. That helps so much.
Yeah. I remember jokingly saying to one of my buddies one time, I'm glad the golf course is 15 minutes away from my house and not like 3. I have time to kind of decompress and get it all off my chest after a bad round and then show up and be, the best version of me I can be.
Yep. Yeah. I saw a good meme. It was like, everybody needs that one friend that you can like text after a good round. And they're like, oh, what were you doing? Like, oh, what did you make? Oh, you birdied that hole. You need somebody in that because typically the wives, girlfriends don't quite care about that amazing 3-iron you hit to get on a par 5 and 2.
Nope, not at all. I got some weird looks earlier. I was hitting rip foam balls in my living room, and got some bad looks on that. So I've learned that's a garage activity, not a living room activity.
But I just had Dr. Luke on. He said that all you need is a bed sheet. They're not going to hurt anything in the living room.
Know. It's funny. I listened to that episode. It's phenomenal. That's where I got some bottom right away, and I was like, this is what I need.
Love it.
So moving us up here, I'm curious. In the last, let's call it 5 years or so, is there a new belief, a behavior, or habit you've either changed your mind on or adopted to take whether your game or your personal life to the next level?
One habit or belief, is that what you said?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would probably just say that the whole less is more thing. I think that has just been so key because I think that like a good example is like, a lot of people, when they have a tournament coming up or like a special round or something like that, they just try to cram it. And then you're like exhausted. Like I know so many people I'll work with and they're like, I have this tournament coming up, so I'm going to like practice every day before then. And again, it sounds like it's going to be good. That's the only way I made it through school. I just crammed and, got A's and B's and it worked. Golf doesn't quite work like that. There's a mental and physical energy component to it. So I'm like, I have a tournament coming up Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's 3 different formats over 3 courses in 3 days. Very fun. It's a mental grind though, because it's like a partner event. So you're trying to like, make him proud and like give him some good spots. So like Wednesday, Thursday before the event, like I'll hit some balls or maybe a couple on Wednesday, probably a lot more putting. Thursday, I'll probably just take off completely. And like old me would have been like, oh my God, what are you doing? You don't care enough. You're not preparing. I can't believe that. But then like, if you don't sleep very good, like we talked about, like kind of full circle there, but like, you got to just like do less sometimes and like know when to go hard and when to like dial it back. Like when I went to Q school in 2019, I fully planned on doing 2 full practice days and you have to walk there and it was 90 degrees, 90% humidity, wearing pants, pushing a cart, like very hilly golf course. And I remember doing the first day and the second day I was supposed to do another 18 before the 3-day event. I was toast and I was like, just do 9. And that's like when it clicked. And I was like, if you watch the guys on the PGA Tour before events, they really used to do a lot more. I feel like now they're like maybe 9 holes Monday, maybe 9 holes Tuesday. Maybe they just practice and then maybe like 9 holes for the Pro-Am or something. So I think that like your swing is there. Like it's not going to change in that day before. And so it's like, document your feels, document your swing thoughts after those rounds so you can lean back on them during that tournament. But then like you don't feel like you have to cram. And so you can like literally eat good food, get good sleep, just show up as prepared as you can. I just think I used to overdo it so much. And again, I just think that it's well-intentioned, but I think that overdoing it can lead to just going out there and you're already kind of behind the 8 ball a little bit.
Yeah, well said, and something we all need to hear over and over again. Now, I'm curious. I know you're big on goals, and as we're coming up, I mean, this episode will be released at the turn of the new year. What are you most excited about and working toward in 2025?
I'm just like so excited about everything. Like it's true. Like I'm so giddy because I've went through so many ups and downs in the business side of things, the golf side of things too, but business for sure. And I feel like the last few years I've really kind of found what I just love to do. I mean, I'm 350 episodes of my podcast in and I feel like I'm just getting started, So it's just like, I really feel like I'm trying to get in that flow state. Hopefully I can live a long time to keep doing this. And for me, I'm just like so excited for the new book. I'm already got the 3rd one lined up, all outlined and ready to go. So it's just, I don't know, for me, it's just like going and I'm 37 right now. So like I have a kind of a 3-year goal of just going as hard as I can, still resting and stuff, but to really just, I call it 40 project. So I'm just I'm looking for, I like the kind of big birthdays and stuff like that to work towards. Yeah. So for me in 2025, I'm just really excited to keep growing the brand, keep getting new people on the show, keep getting, different perspectives and figuring out how I can use it in my own game and then share it with others. And, it's so rewarding when you hear from people that read your stuff or listen to it. I mean, that's as that's addicting. Like I've been addicted to a lot of stuff. That's definitely the best one is people getting real results from your stuff. And so that for me is just to do more and more of that. I feel like I used to, again, shiny object syndrome. And I feel like I'm kind of really clear on what I want now and who I want to help and how I can do my best. And so just trying to do more of that. And, I know it's kind of corny, but do what lights you up. Right. And it's really true though. And it's like, I really enjoy it. And it's cool to help anywhere from 12 to 75-year-olds, that are reaching out and getting help. So very rewarding and grateful to have the opportunity.
I love that. And I want to talk about your book in a moment, but I'm curious, a couple podcast questions. You might have alluded to it earlier. Who's your dream guest?
I mean, you got to say Tiger. I mean,
That's
he's
what I thought.
He's the only reason I even really got into golf. I still vividly remember watching the Masters in 1997 when he kind of burst on the scene, and I had a little TV next to it. I was playing Zelda, so during the commercial breaks, I was doing that, and then I was watching Augusta. So I have Tiger back here, I have Augusta back here. If you're watching the video, and so it's just deeply, deeply embedded there. He's just such a beast. Yes, his physical skills are amazing and his hard work, his work ethic, he does all the things right. It's so hard to talk about yes, you see the drives, he was hitting those steel shaft drivers, stuff like that's crazy, but his mental game is next level. That's the area I would love to know. The guy is like a lockbox though. He doesn't tell anyone anything. Maybe one day he will, when he finally hangs it up, but I don't know, that to me, I would just love to learn because he has found a next level that few people ever do in any sport. I
mean, he's essentially a Navy SEAL playing golf. That's
100%. I mean, he trained with him. I mean, who does that? Who's number one in the world? And I want to go start training with Navy SEALs. That's insane. Yeah. So I just admire him and what he's done for the game.
I love that. And I can say candidly, I am a huge fan of the podcast. I've listened to dozens and dozens of episodes. So thank you for all you do. For those listening, is there an episode, and you can answer this one of two ways, that either you most recommend somebody listen to, or is there an episode that you are most proud of?
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I want to replay this episode on my show. We're having such a good flow already, Paul. Yeah. I really feel like this one is nice because it's a good mix of really what the whole brand is about. It's not just the mental game. It's not just practice. It's not just short game. It's not just course management. It really is figuring out how to think your way around the golf course a little bit better. But in terms of solo episodes, I mean, I'll probably get a little bit lost because there's 200 solo episodes on there. But I feel like the ones where I share my mistakes a lot, I think those tend to resonate really well. Because I've made so many, from tournament mistakes to mental mistakes. And so those seem to just do really well and resonate with people. I'm very open with my failures on and off the course. And I think that people can resonate with that a little bit sometimes and be like, if you're going through a tough time, there's hope for it if you just stick with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us about the book, and maybe the best way to kind of put this through a lens for you is what is that one big ambitious goal or concept your book tackles that's going to most help the listeners?
Yeah, I mean, I want to help people shoot in the 70s more often. The first book was really just a kind of an intro to the mental game. I didn't know, I had no fans, no followers. It was a brand new thing I launched in 2022, and thousands of people have read it and really liked it. And I feel like it was very good at helping people break 90. Some people break 80. Some people even broke par from it. And I'm like, man, this is crazy. And so I really started to interview all these awesome people, from Scott Fawcett to Mark Immelman to you, and all these awesome people over these episodes. And I'm like, man, I keep hearing break 80. Everybody wants to break 80, break 85, shoot in the 70s, become a scratch golfer maybe. And so I wanted to really just try to clarify what that process looks like. So it starts out with the breaking 80 by the numbers. So again, I pulled every study I could find, every data, and combining them and crunching numbers over here at 5 a.m. and trying to figure out what does a scratch golfer look like. So that way you can be like, here's what they do. Here's where I'm at here, kind of build the bridge. So that's why I called it the blueprint, because it really is learning the mental side. It is then going into practice, short game, putting, and the course management side of things. So to me, it really just will hopefully help speed up success. I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight, but I've had so many people from the first book just be like, man, I just started, having an attitude of gratitude. I started doing XYZ and I'm already playing better. I mean, I've had guys go from 36 to a 12 and they didn't change their swing at all. They just were doing the short game, the mental game stuff. And I was like, man, I feel like we could take that up a notch, just because I've had so many experts on the show. And then I've put it in my own game and seen it, with so many of my coaching students. I wanted to try and get that simplified because there's like so much information out there. I mean, even my podcast, there's hundreds of episodes. It's like, where do I go? Yeah. So I tried to give it like that system of like, hey, do this, follow this protocol. And there's a lot of stuff in there like the first book just doesn't have, because I didn't have podcast guests yet. I didn't have a lot of these studies. And there's a lot of reflecting. There's a lot of reflection and journal prompts and stuff. I think a lot of times, I mean, I've bought so many books and then you read them and you're like, what did I just learn about? So I try to build in a lot of self-assessment in there to make sure that, hey, my wedge game really isn't very good. My self-talk, really could improve. And so there's like a whole bonus section with, you can download all the resources and stuff and then start to kind of develop your own blueprint, start your own game plan. And I think that really helps. So people don't just read it and be like, oh, that sounds nice. But then, 5 minutes later, they forget about it.
Dude, that's awesome. I'm excited to read it. When is it available? Where can we get it?
Yeah, it's going to be on Amazon. It'll be Wicked Smart Golf 2, the blueprint to breaking 80 consistently. It should be out by the time this episode already is out. The Audible will come out probably right around then too. That's a little bit of a process too. So yeah, I'll have paperback, Kindle, hardcover, and the Audible soon. So really excited for it. Again, it's just on Amazon, and I'm really excited for people to read it and start implementing it.
Outstanding. And aside from buying the book, where else can people go to connect with you and to learn from you or work with you?
Yeah, so everything is just all the social media handles, and YouTube's just at Wicked Smart Golf. Do a lot of fresh stuff on YouTube, podcast Wicked Smart Golf. So I made the branding pretty easy. If you want to email me and learn about working together for coaching or anything, you can just shoot me an email, michael@wickedsmartgolf.com.
Outstanding. Dude, thank you so much for a phenomenal conversation.
Of course, man. We're 2 for 2. I could talk with you all day, man. I appreciate you having me on, and it was a lot of fun having you on my show.
Yeah, likewise. Looking forward to getting together at the PGA show. And what is that, 6 weeks away or so?
I know, not even. Yeah, I guess it's about then. And then we got your event coming up too. So looking forward to it, man. It's going to be a ton of fun.
Absolutely. For those of you listening, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode. If you found today's conversation valuable, which I absolutely know you did, do both Michael and myself a favor. Share it with a fellow golfer. Help get Michael's wisdom and insight out there into the world. Go purchase his book. And if you continue to find value in this podcast, taking 30 seconds to leave a genuine rating review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify goes a long way in supporting the show and is greatly appreciated. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Hit them straight this week, and we'll catch you in the next episode.